who is the 1 seed most likely to get bounced?
Well, I would say there are 2 of them. I think both North Carolina and Houston have really difficult second-round games if it goes according to seed. I mean, Houston could wind up playing Texas A&M, which they played earlier in the year, and Texas A&M is the best offensive rebounding team in the country, and they have Wade Taylor IV, who can get you 35 in any given game. And North Carolina could wind up playing Mississippi State, who blew out Tennessee in the Southeastern Conference tournament, and they are really tough defensively, talented, and they've got a bucket getter in Josh Hubbard. So those are difficult sort of second-round games where you're playing the 8-9 winner. And if those specific opponents get to them, that could make them a little bit vulnerable early.
What about you, Coach?
Yeah, I agree with the Texas A&M. Texas A&M is the perfect team to play against this Houston team. You're taking away their strengths. They want to turn you over. Well, they got a terrific backcourt. Bootsy Radford and Wade Taylor, they're dynamic. Both of them can get downhill, make plays, score at the basket. So that Jamal Shead dominance might not happen. And then on the glass, it's violent. This would be a violent basketball game. 2 teams, when that ball's shot, sometimes both of those teams, their best offense is the missed shot. So I think it'll be really interesting. If Houston plays A&M, when that ball goes on the glass, it will be decided by grown men.
What are we to make of Purdue? They're the #1 seed in the Midwest, obviously 29-4 in the season. There's a lot of expectations in a lot of people's eyes. You got Mad Dog Russo up here screaming yesterday about how nobody's got more pressure on them than Purdue Boilermakers. What are your thoughts about them in the Midwest region and ultimately getting themselves to the Final Four?
I mean, I've got Purdue as a Final Four team. Go ahead, Jay.
I apologize. Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I mean, I think Purdue's carrying some baggage, and the question is, are they going to put it down before they get to the tournament? And there's sort of a PTSD that goes along with losing 3 years in a row to a double-digit seed. They're being doubted. They've been incredibly consistent throughout the course of the year, but that was true last year. High-level consistency is one thing, but if you slip up in a tournament game, but they're older this year. You know, they don't have freshman guards anymore. Those guys are sophomores, and Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer are much better this year than they were last year. They have Lance Jones this year, who provides them with a ton of athleticism at the 3 spot, really good defensive player, and he can get up and down the floor. So I think they're in a better position to advance and perhaps get to the Final Four this year as they were in the last couple years. But I think the hurdles they face are more mental than anything. But the last time that a #1 seed that had lost to a 16, that was Virginia. And they won the national championship the next year and had a miracle against Purdue in the Elite 8 when Mamadi Diakite made that shot to tie the game and send it into overtime. So Purdue's needs to follow that playbook that Virginia had.
Coach, let me go to you on this note because I know you love talking about your man John Calipari. I'm looking at him right now in the South region as a #3 seed, okay? I'm assuming you can beat Oakland, and then you'd have Texas Tech, NC State winner in the second round, if I'm reading correctly. Your thoughts on Kentucky, what they've got going for them this year, and whether or not they can pull off a run and get themselves to the Final Four, Coach Greenberg?
I've got Kentucky in the Final Four, and it's all about their backcourt. They have the most dynamic backcourt in college basketball. You talk about Cal. When his teams are really good, he's got great guards. That's just the way it is, whether it's Fox, whether it's Wall. When he has great guards, all of a sudden great things happen. He's got Rob Dillingham. He's going to break your ankles, or he's going to break someone's ankles during the course of this weekend. Then he's got Reed Sheppard, just snaps off passes, gives them transition baskets, a 50% three-point shooter. Antonio Reeves has had a monster season as a fifth-year senior. 40% three-point shooter. You're talking about a team that shoots 40 from the 3, assists on about 57% of their field goals, has incredible depth in their front court. But to me, it's about their guard play and the emergence of Justin Edwards, maybe potentially as a wing lockdown defender. So I think that Cal will be just fine. You know, you trust your guards in the NCAA tournament, and their guards are so good. Now they got to guard the ball every once in a while, but I think they'll clean that up for the tournament.
Well, because I love you both, I'm going to spare you from having to answer specific questions about the UConn Huskies.
I knew this was coming. Why can't I just have my moment in my year?
You got to have her moments with the UConn Huskies. I got a better question for you, other than bloviating about how great and phenomenal they are and how they're the legitimate #1 overall seed.
You never know what can happen in this
My
journey.
question to y'all is this. I'm looking at Iowa State. Is there anyone else in that East bracket that UConn, or is there anyone, period, in the East bracket that UConn needs to be concerned about?
Illinois. Illinois is really good. They're not the best defensive team, but they have really good individual defenders. And with Terrence Shannon Jr., they've got a guy who's averaging 23, big lefty that's a downhill driver that can also knock down a three. Averaged 34 points a game in the in the Big Ten tournament. Had 40 against Nebraska, then followed it up with 36 against Wisconsin. He's a first-round draft pick, and he's been through a lot this year. He's charged with a felony in Kansas, suspended, and then went to court, was reinstated, even though that charge is still pending. So he's been dealing with a lot, but they're an isolation team. He can isolate you. Marcus Domask can back you down. I think Illinois is one of the more dangerous 3 seeds in the tournament, along with Kentucky.
Seth, let me ask you this. With the 4 seeds, which team do you think could potentially make the deepest run when you're looking at Auburn, Duke, Alabama, Kansas?
I think 3 of those 4 get to the Sweet 16. One of those 4 gets knocked out in the first weekend, and that's going to be Kansas. Kansas is not a number 4 seed. I mean, you look at this Kansas team, they're going to be without Kevin McCullough. Kevin McCullough is their best perimeter defender, their best shot maker, and without him, a team that doesn't have any depth, everyone moves up on the scouting report. So now all of a sudden, Johnny Furphy is going to have a better defender on him. It takes away a shot maker, which impacts spacing, even if Hunter Dickinson is healthy. I think the other 4s will make it to the second weekend, but I think Kansas could even get bopped in their opening round game against Sanford, a team that shoots 40% of their shots from the 3. They press, they run. Achor is a 6'9" guy that will pull Dickinson away from the basket. So my concern is Kansas. The other 3, I think they get to the Sweet 16.
You Duke Blue Devils. I'd like you to talk to us about what you've seen from them this year. They're a 4th seed. They're going up against Vermont in the first round. Your thoughts on what you've seen from them this year, your belief in them as this NCAA tournament gets set to unfold.
I think Duke is very good. They've been short of great this year, and they've had some moments where they played great in a game, but they haven't been able to sustain it. And I think the way the season ended was disappointing for them. I know it was disappointing for fans of that program, but they didn't bring the same level of competitiveness and fight in their last 2 games, in the season ender against North Carolina and then against NC State in the ACC tournament. But they've had some time to go back and sort of lick their wounds and get ready. I do like their draw in the tournament. If they get past their first round game against Vermont, they wind up playing maybe Wisconsin in the second round. That's not going to be a game in which the athleticism will decide it. But I think Duke got a very good draw in this tournament. The question is, are they gonna bring it with high level competitiveness? And they're capable of that. They just didn't show it at the end of the year like they had in earlier games.
Coach, let me go to you in the West region, because UNC, North Carolina, they're the number 1 seed. Haven't been hearing a lot of noise about them. Is that, as this NCAA tournament gets set to begin, is that a byproduct of them losing to NC State in the ACC title game, or is it about Arizona being that number 2 seed in that region, and that's what everybody's looking at?
I think it's more Arizona. I mean, you look at Arizona, at one point they were number 1 in the country this season. And Arizona is an incredibly talented team. And everyone wants to see Arizona, North Carolina, Caleb Love, obviously, get a chance to play against R.J. Davis. But this is an Arizona team that is really talented. They've got depth. They've got guard play. They've got Omar Ballo protecting the front of the rim. They can score in transition. They have really run some really nice half-court offense. I think that Arizona is a dangerous team that can match up in the front court with this North Carolina team. And it's an interesting matchup. Everyone's going to talk about Love and R.J. Davis. I think an interesting matchup is Harrison Ingram and Keyshawn Johnson, 2 transfers, one guy to transfer from Stanford, one guy to transfer from San Diego State. That could be a little bit of a game within a game, because both of those guys bring toughness to their teams.
Okay. All right, we have to roll, but Jay, because we have to let you go, 1-word answer for us here, please. Who do you have winning it all?
Connecticut, all because of you.
There we go. There we go. With the smug face, just as I expected. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Enjoy it all. ESPN Tournament Challenge. Men's and women's brackets are open, so scan the QR code to download the app, then create a group. Invite your friends, fill out your brackets, and get ready for the madness with the #1 bracket game.